What's up, and welcome back to Opposites Attract podcast. This is Sonja Ramirez, your girl, and I'm sitting next to
Miguel Ramirez. And we have our special guest, our first guest of the year, MJ Cordova.
What's up?
Welcome.
The first, but not the last, and not the best.
Oh, why would you say that?
It's going to be a great year.
It's going to be a great year.
He's
and
so humble.
we're excited to have you with us.
Yeah.
So
super
MJ
excited.
is the author of Map to Sales. And you've been a consultant for Fortune 500 companies, and you've been featured on CBS News, Fox, ABC, NBC.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Let's rub some of that.
Yeah. Send some of that this way.
Get some of that magic dust on you.
Nice.
Yeah. So we met each other, maybe 3 years ago, because we were living in this house.
3, 4 years, something like that.
And I went to a few of your courses, really fun, energetic.
Yes.
And so I'm excited, to have you here
Excited to be here.
and to hear your story. So tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from?
Let's go. I'm from Denver originally, so I was born and raised there, and this is my second go-around living in Arizona, and I love it here, so I'll probably always live here.
Always?
Always.
Arizona's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Arizona's really nice.
I'm a native. I love it.
That's not, like we've talked before about, like, hey, if we could live anywhere in the country, where would we live? Arizona's tough to beat. I mean, the summers
Arizona, baby.
Summers can be brutal, but it's kind of weird, but you do get used to it after a while.
Mm-hmm.
After 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's easier to manage. I mean, so in Denver, the weather's relatively mild in Denver. People think it snows a lot, which it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. Denver's pretty warm. But you still don't have to worry about scraping your windows and, icy roads and all the stuff that comes along with that stuff. So it's just a great, I'd rather put up with a few months of hot weather and.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and then if you're here, if you want some snow, you can go get some snow and be back in the warm weather in the same day.
Right.
Yeah, I don't need snow.
You're good.
Looking at your bio, I would say that you are a success. And I know that you continue to grow and you continue to work on you and to help others. Like, you're very passionate about making a difference in other people's lives by sharing your knowledge. So when people see you, you're very well put together. If you guys are watching this on YouTube.
Hey, babe, take it easy. I'm sitting right here. All right?
You're stupid.
I'll be your man crush.
He's very well put together, very calm. He has a beard, women. Okay. No. By the way, he are you single? He's single, so we'll be giving out his number a little later. If you subscribe, no, we're gonna use him as a tool.
You gotta subscribe, and share the podcast, and then we'll give you his phone number.
Yes, we'll do a raffle.
Brilliant.
Hey,
brilliant.
A dinner for those of you that subscribe. You will win a dinner with MJ.
Sure. He is regretting signing up for this podcast, right? We're what, 2 minutes in?
He's like, holy shit, Sonja.
I've been sold into sex slavery.
Because you've only seen the very professional side of me.
Yes.
So
she's a maniac.
And he hasn't watched the past. I'm pretty crazy. I'm fun.
Well, I'm crazy and fun.
Look, do you see how he says that? Well, I'm crazy and fun.
Well, I've been crazy before. I'm capable of being crazy. I don't know. This is my best side.
That's so funny. So we see, to me, I see you as a success. And I want to hear your story because I don't know your story. And, did you grow up in a great environment? Mom, dad, lots of money?
Country clubs.
Were you?
Oh, yeah. Private jets.
All that good stuff.
Really?
I want to know what makes you.
Let's back up for a second because I love that you started out with the success part. And the result of a lot of what I do is income, whether it's for corporations, whether it's for individuals. But it's not a focus to me. It's a result. Mm-hmm. Success to me is the journey. Success to me is the constant improvement. And
there you go.
I have started literally from scratch 3 times. And
really?
So there's been times in my life I've had a tremendous amount of money. And there was a time in the relatively recent past that I got by 8 days on $12. So if somebody said, are you a success? I would say absolutely, because each time I went into a situation, like everything else, there's patterns and there's ups and downs. And I don't know anybody that's gone through a life that has taken a trajectory that's just been straight up.
Like a rocket. Yeah.
We always run into situations and there's tremendous gifts that I have and tremendous strengths that I have. But when that pendulum swings, there's decisions that I make and there's certain things that I'm not great at that also affect, life in general. And so I'm very careful about quantifying success with income.
Yeah.
Because
that's a great point.
The most financially successful I have been was also at the point where I was the worst version of myself personally and emotionally, and most unhappy. And so as things moved forward, and we can start at the beginning, but as things moved forward, it really has become more about being fulfilled than to put just some arbitrary number on a piece of paper. These digital credits, my son calls his bank account digital credits.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
We get focused on these digital credits that we could use to buy stuff, and none of those things make a great life. I mean, the experiences we have with those things. If we take a great trip, we go to the Bahamas. It's not the Bahamas that's great. It's the experience that we're sharing with someone in the Bahamas.
Yeah,
and I think we forget to make those distinctions. So
yeah,
that is so true.
That's why I wanted to back
Very
up
much.
to the success part of it.
Yes.
I like I said, I've experienced a lot of financial success, and I've experienced some areas and times and when I wasn't as financially successful, or when I started from scratch and had to sacrifice and go back. So I just wanted to kind of, as we go through the story, we can get to kind of where I am now, because I think, when I go through some of the things that I did, and then you peel back the layers a little bit, people are surprised that I don't like drive a Ferrari and, live in Paradise Valley, which I would probably never do, even if I had a lot of digital credits. But
I would drive a Ferrari.
That's a discussion.
I would drive a Ferrari.
Like if you have see, now we're going to get off track.
I would have to be at a place in order to drive
cash.
a Ferrari where it's just like, okay, what do I do with this now?
Right.
I guess I can go get a Ferrari that I've wanted. I mean, and you know what?
Sure.
And for some people,
like,
I guess.
sure.
But for me, I mean, so I'm a helicopter mechanic or inspector. I've worked on stuff so that kind of stuff for me, it's not like the symbol of having a Ferrari. Mm-hmm. It's just having something that the performance and, like, to be honest,
sure,
if I was going to have somebody work on it, I'd be like, come to my house because I want to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'd be that kind of thing.
I'd probably have like old hot rods and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd probably spend $500,000 on like hot rods, old classic cars and stuff. That would like flip my switch a little bit more. But
flip my switch. I like that. I'm going to use that.
But yeah. So I was born in I was born in Denver, and I was born into not a really great financial situation. And then my parents divorced when I was young.
How long were they married before they divorced?
Oh, I don't even know.
No.
Yeah.
Was it before you could remember, or?
No, I was about 8 when they divorced.
Okay.
And
wow, that's a tough.
So it's enough that you're conscious, but you don't understand.
Yeah.
So my dad left and did his thing with the new family, and we really didn't have a whole lot of contact. And then my mom worked a couple of jobs, plus she worked part-time at a catering company. So I was really alone a lot with my older brother.
Okay, so there's 2 of you?
There was 3, and one passed from cancer. But he was older too, and he was already out of the house. So it was mostly me and my brother. He was 4 years older than me, so he's kind of on the borderline of being able to stick around and make me sandwiches at night and such. So I grew up, really modest. We ate a lot of beans, a lot of rice, and it was what it was. And sports were great for me. Kept me out of some of the things that other people in the neighborhood were doing. And
what sports did you do?
I did pretty much everything. I mean, basketball is my passion. Golf
Okay.
now, but I mean, as a kid, I played everything: football, wrestling, boxing. Just, I mean, if there was a team, I did it.
Yeah.
So so I grew up kind of that way, and you know, my mom was a huge influence on me, and just the way she approached life, and you know, her outlook toward things. Just, hey, work hard. That's we have control over our effort. We have control over our attitude. Other than that, it's God's will.
Right.
And you know, you can't get wrapped up in results. You have to get wrapped up in the effort, knowing that you're doing the right thing.
The action. Yeah.
So she was a huge influence, and she worked a lot. I was on my own a lot. Luckily, stayed out of trouble for the most part, and got to high school, and I was not a great student. I mean, I was a smart kid, but not a great student. Just my attendance was terrible, and just I was more interested in goofing off and telling jokes and stuff. So
We're probably a lot more similar than yeah.
Right.
That sounds
that
a lot
part
like
is
me.
like you, and then how we grew up. We have a lot in common. Single
Yeah.
mom.
so I got into high school, and I was just looking for like the easiest classes to take because I just wanted to get out. And it was kind of a joke, but it was kind of not. But all of my family did concrete. They were all in construction. And sort of the advice was, don't get anybody pregnant, don't get arrested. When you're 16, you can quit school and you can start, you know, working a trade and learn a trade, and, you know, you can join the union and have a great life. And there's nothing wrong with being a tradesman.
That's pretty good advice for the most part.
Right.
Yes.
For the most part.
the most
The
part.
last part, you know, maybe you should finish at least high school. But
but we didn't, you know, I mean, I was the first one in my family that even went through high school.
really.
Wow.
So I was just looking for an easy class, and somebody's like, "Oh, you should join DECA." It was a marketing class, and it was about marketing and entrepreneurship. And so I joined this class, and it interested me for some reason. And the teacher took a liking to me, and I ended up finishing. It was a 2-year sort of program, and I ended up finishing both years in 1 year. So then on my senior year, I went into an independent study program. And you basically had to write a business plan, and you would run the little student store at the
Wow.
school. And
That's really good.
I don't remember them offering that to us at my high school.
it's called DECA.
I've
Is that
heard
still
of DECA. I've
do you
heard
know
of
if it's still
DECA.
around?
It's
Yeah.
still,
It's still
yeah.
around.
Well, we
So-
just got something for our kids where it's something
It's
similar,
not DECA
right?
though. Yeah, but they're
But
teaching them about finances. I was like,
Finances, and they got to
what?
run a store. Yeah, that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
So in addition to that, DECA had competitions. So your district would go, and there was different categories, like hospitality, where you would act like you're a waiter and you would role play. And then there was a salesmanship one, and there was one where you wrote. So I was in the sales contest competition and won the district, went to state, won the state,
What?
went to a national one, and got to fly to, you know, to the national meeting and compete there and everything. And then I actually became an officer, and I was the vice president for all of Colorado DECA.
Wow, that's cool.
My senior year. And so I kind of just knew that, you know, I really love sales. In addition, part of that program was they went to businesses and they would help to get you jobs, and a lot of them were retail, and I lucked out, and they got me a job at Sears in their call center. So I would call people after they bought their brand new appliances and try to sell them extended warranties.
Oh, you're that guy.
And you know, I was 17 years old or so, and I think minimum wage was $3.35 an hour, so I was getting $3.35 an hour plus a couple bucks for each of those warranties that I sold. And you know, I was 17, no bills. I helped my mom a little bit, but you know, I think I was probably averaging $8-9 an hour. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to do anything other than sales, because I can just make as much as I want to make.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. Like, you found your passion and your purpose. Like, I mean, at that time in sales, your senior year, your junior year, like you had a huge
that's pretty
head
cool.
start on this, you know?
So I ended up wanting to go to college. So I joined the Army, and did that for a little bit, and came back and went finished school, and then my son was born. So I was working swing shift, going to school during the day, and then trying to help out with my son best I could.
This was in the Army?
After the Army?
Right
after the Army. Yeah.
What'd you do in the Army?
Electrician.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I mean, they didn't have a sales choice.
Well, they call it's something different. They call it recruiting.
No, I was a combat engineer, technically.
Yeah.
So
you had a son.
So I had a son, and I was going to college. And
how old were you again?
At that time, I was about 21, 22.
Okay. So you had a little one kind of early.
Yep. And got my first sales job, had to move to, my grandfather was also a big influence in my life. He was pretty much my dad figure. And I still remember because he's spoke really broken English, and, he had been in construction for 40 some years and was still working. And I came to him and I said, "Hey, Gramps, I got a really good job." And he's like, "Oh, he's just so happy, Hito." And I said, "But it's in El Paso." And I just remember he put his hands on his hips. He goes, "What are you doing? You got a good job over here and your boss likes you. And what if you go over there and those people don't like you?" So it was just, trying to go back to like, okay, I just want to do something different. So I moved to El Paso for a couple of years and just bounced around. I was always really good at sales and kind of never focused on it. I just was good at it. And I think a lot of it is just communication and likability and, being able to relate with people, which some people just do better.
Yeah.
But I got a job. Well, actually, I was going to University of Phoenix, and I was doing pretty well in sales. This would have been early 2000s. I was making a decent living, and I went back to school to get my master's degree, or my MBA. And I was in class with this lady, and we had to do a group project, and then one of us had to present what we did on the project, and I presented, and she goes, "Oh my gosh." She goes, "You would be so good at what I do." And I said, "Well, what do you do?" And she said, I do Yellow Page sales, and she explained the job to me.
Yellow Page sales.
And she explained the job to me, and I go, "That just sounds horrible."
Like, what is this?
But she was like, the good people that do this, like they make, this amount of money. So I went home and I was talking to my wife and I said, "Yes, lady told me about this Yellow Page thing. And it sounds terrible, but it's a lot of money." And
okay. Sounds terrible, but you're going to make a lot of money.
Right. So of course my wife says, "Well, I think you need to go get an interview." So I went to the interview and I thought, I can always go back to what I was doing. I'll give it a shot. And they sent me away for like 4 weeks and to do the training. And I had never been through any kind of formal training for sales.
So you decided to take the job,
Mm-hmm.
the horrible job for the money.
For the money, because yes.
And most people, that's what they do.
Because I sell my soul for digital credits at the time. So I go off to this training and they're teaching me all this stuff about sales, like how to introduce yourself and how people communicate. And I was so fascinated. So I got back and I started doing sales and I just started buying books like crazy. I was always a big reader and would buy books, but I started buying books about sales and about success. And
at this point, how old were you?
This would have been early 2000s, so it would have been whatever 68 to 2000 is, 30 something.
So you started reading personal development books at a very young age.
Yep. And so now I'm doing this, and I'm consumed with trying to learn how to get better. And within about 6 months, like I was just crushing it in sales. Just destroying numbers that they actually sent a corporate fraud team out to Denver and they audited over 200 of my contracts because they said there's no way this person's selling this much without lying or doing something fraudulent.
Oh, man.
So they found out they were all good. They asked me to speak at a sales conference. And since we're being real, I'll tell you how it goes. Who's been to a sales conference? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when you go to a corporate sales conference is it's all paid and you're away from home and you're at a hotel with a bunch of other people who are social. So you end up drinking a lot at night.
Right. Remember that?
Yep.
And then you're super hungover the next day when people are talking.
Mm-hmm.
We were hungover at our wedding. We went to a conference, and we were
Legal
our wedding was the day after. I didn't think she was gonna make it. Like for when I left so we had the sales conference, and the next day we had like a meeting that we had to go to.
Yeah.
She didn't go, and when I left the room, like I'm all like one eye open or half open, and I have my suit on, and I'm just stumbling to the elevator, and I look at her. I was like, I don't think she's gonna make the wedding later today. But yeah, that's how it goes.
So that's your environment, and I was scheduled to speak. And
you were scheduled to speak?
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
I'm 30-some years old. I'm making ridiculous money. I think I'm I think I'm just the biggest thing ever.
You got the biggest head
I'm
ever,
like
right?
Tony Robbins.
Right. Who was that?
He couldn't sell what I sell. So Wednesday night at like 3 a.m, I decide I'm going to go ahead and figure out like what I'm supposed to talk about in 6 hours. And I get out some little 3x note cards and scribbled out four ideas. And that's sort of the foundation of everything I teach today.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. And then so shortly after that, I was the #1 sales guy for a long time, a couple years, became a sales manager. Almost immediately, my team became the #1 team. And
So
then
how was your presentation?
it was fantastic.
Really? Hungover? All
Yeah,
like
come on.
knocked it out.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude.
It's just like I guess
yeah, once
when
you
it's
got
when
it,
it's go
once
time.
embedded,
Yeah, I'm not trying to be cocky, but like
I'm not trying to be
I'll tell
cocky.
you
I'm
this.
just confident.
God gives you gifts.
Yes, he does.
And I will tell you this, praise God.
Yes.
God gave me the gift to do that. God gave me the gift to be in front of people and inspire people. And I don't want it to come across cocky, but I'm good at that. And that's why I do it. And that's why I've been in positions where I've been successful doing it. And so, we can go off on a tangent for a second, but society has us so wrapped up in that we can't be proud of who we are. We can't be proud of the things that we do well.
Right.
And I've never met a person that didn't have something special about them. And I hate that we're not allowed to say that we're special at something, that we're not allowed to say that we are really good at something. Because we're so quick to go, oh, I got dad bod, and oh, I can't ski, and oh, I'm not athletic, and oh, I'm not good at math. We'll talk about that stuff all day long. But nobody will say, you know what? I have never met anybody better than me at sales.
Yeah. We were
So
just talking
true.
to Joey about that, to
Yes,
our son. He was is that why he had that issue at school?
I believe so.
Because he was drawing something and he was having trouble. Like he wanted to be good at it. He has a little bit of a temper, and
he's a perfectionist.
yeah, like if it's not right, if it's not the way he wants it,
He flips the lid.
He loses.
Yeah.
It. So they were doing something at school and they were drawing something and it wasn't coming out right, or maybe he was looking at other people and theirs were better than his was, and he was not happy, and he ended up getting in trouble, but or not in trouble, but they called us and let us know what was going on. So later that day he came home and I was just sitting with him and I told him, I was like, you know what, I suck at drawing. I was like, I'm just not good at it. Like I to this day, from the time I was a little boy till today, I can trace, but you ask me to draw something and I suck. It looks horrible. I was like, but you know what? There's other things that I'm really good at. I was like, and if you want to draw, you can practice and you can get better. I was like, but maybe there's other things that you're going to be really, really good at. Yeah. So maybe this isn't it.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yep. We all have certain gifts. I totally agree with you.
So, and one of the things I'm very conscious about is the language that I use, and especially adjectives. And it's odd because sometimes people just don't know how to take me, because, I'll meet somebody and talk to them for a few minutes and shake their hand and walk away and just tell them, it was great meeting with you. You are spectacular. And they look at me like, huh?
I remember when we first, because we went to go have, we met up and for coffee, and we were talking, and you were so calm that you made me feel like uncomfortable. Like you're very intimidating. Just like if you don't know, if they don't know you, you come off as a bit intimidating, and it's so crazy.
It's like
And I don't
the
get
mafia.
intimidated.
Like the mob is
Yeah.
like real calm. You're like, oh shit.
I don't know about that part, but
No, like they don't get worked up about anything. It's like, all right.
but anyway, to continue
I'm
down the
just kidding.
journey, I ended up getting a divorce, and I was at a VP level at Verizon at that time. Ended up getting a divorce, and it kind of I was with her, since high school, and so it was long. It was difficult, and so I
How
took
long were you guys married?
She and I started dating in 1987, and we got a divorce in 2006.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So I kind of wanted a fresh start, and there had been a company recruiting me, and so I moved to Arizona. Got a divorce, moved to Arizona, and started from scratch again. Okay. So I started from scratch the first time. The divorce, not to be a martyr or anything, but I wanted to make sure it was as easy on my son as possible. So I overpaid a little bit so that she could keep the house that we had been living in, which was way too big for just the two of them. But I just didn't want, I remembered my parents' divorce, and I didn't want him to have to move, and I didn't want him to have to change schools. And I just wanted as much of his life to be normal as possible. So I really literally did just walk away with very little.
So what happened there? What ended your marriage?
Well, that was a point in my life where I was not the greatest version of me. So, I was focused a lot on me and relatively selfish. And aside from that, excuse me, aside from that, you're just a very different person at however old I was. So I would have been like 36, 37, 38. And my wife, we're still really great friends, actually. We just understand we weren't meant to be together. I'm relatively impulsive, and I've been blessed that I've been able to make large amounts of money, so I've never had to be good with money, which is why I've had to start over a few times, which is fine. It doesn't bother me. She is very deliberate. She's very organized.
Very structured.
She's very structured. And, as we went along in life, those two things just started conflicting more and more. And then, add on top of that I thought it was a pretty big deal, and it was relatively selfish. And, there was tons of nights where, if I wasn't doing my son's practice or something, I would, hey, I need to entertain clients tonight. And I'm out, having a steak and drinking and, rolling in at, midnight or 1 a.m. And so, it's just not a healthy way to live.
Gotcha.
But again, as big a part of it was, that was sort of the vehicle that moved it in the direction. But the reality of it is, it would be very, very difficult for the two of us to be together, just because I'm crazy impulsive. Like I will, I'll buy tickets to Hawaii and not have a hotel and not have a plan.
That's me.
A trip.
He's the organized one.
A trip to Hawaii for her would have had to have been planned out 6 months in ahead, and she would have had to know she got the exact right deal on a hotel, and it would have involved all this research and
too much work. You're like, let's just do it.
Each day would have had its little mini itinerary, and it's just not me.
Yeah.
And by the same type, me doing impulsive things would just drive her crazy. And so, we're both good people. We both love each other. It's just, I think, we're lucky that we understand that we weren't supposed to be together. So
being impulsive, has that had any bad juju, I guess, in the business? Like, just, does that pour over?
Any negative effects?
Yeah.
The odd thing is, business-wise, I make great decisions.
So relationship-wise,
I make horrible decisions.
We'll talk about that.
And financially, I make relatively bad decisions. So it is what it is. You know what? I enjoy every minute of my life. And this last go around, when I started over again, which would have been the fall of 2018, I was stripped away. I mean, I started from zero in a lot of areas. I mean, emotionally and spiritually and financially. And right now, I think I have the best foundation that I've had in all of my life to move forward and be healthy and happy. And, you know, my income in 2019 was as low as it's been in decades. But I had a great 2019. I just felt good and I enjoyed myself and surrounded myself with a much higher quality of person in my life, which, you know, just trickles down to all other things. And so.
What keeps you driving? Like, what keeps you pushing? What keeps you, because you said you had to start over 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And most people will give up the first time and then be done and then go get a job or whatever it may be. But what kept you pushing through the hard times?
I'm pretty unemployable. Like, I can't have a real job. I mean, I would drive my boss crazy and we'd fight. And I mean, it's just not an option. So, you know, I do what I have to do. And again, God has put me in positions where there's always been an option for me to do something to be okay. And, you know, this year has already started out great. 2019, like I said, was a great year for building and understanding and really 100% following my passion, but financially it wasn't a great year. And, you know, it was challenging financially, but I never felt discouraged. I never felt unhappy. So
it's like that Pursuit of Happiness movie.
Right.
Yeah. But
so sorry, baby, I have to get this because I'll forget it. So during your training that I took, okay, you asked everyone in the room, or you told everyone in the room that you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. Like, you got to focus on your why and have it embedded in your soul. I mean, you didn't use those exact words, but those are my words. So that's what I was getting to. What is your why? And I know that it changes as you go through life.
I think a lot of why I did what I did was because I come from pretty humble beginnings, and I think I'm an unselfish person now, and I think even when I was selfish, there was a lot of unselfish things about me. But I just wanted people to know, like, there's so many people out there that are capable of more, and when we always talk about money. Money just offers you choices.
Yeah.
But so many people are capable of more and they just don't, because they don't believe in themselves. They don't know how to do it. And they have all of these sort of reasons why they're not operating as high as they can. And it's relatively simple. To me, it was relatively simple. It was never easy, but it was simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, you know, when I became a sales manager, and I started to see how people's lives changed, you know, it really didn't ever even sink into me for a long time, like how significantly my son's life was different than mine. But when I started seeing my employees, you know, there was one in particular that was a single mom. She had a couple of kids, and I met her. She was in a cell phone store, but I just liked her, and I kind of gave her the same speech I got when I was, you know, hey, I got, you know, I have salespeople and they do this, and she didn't say it sounded terrible because she was working retail and probably not making much money. And she came in and she was just so enthusiastic to learn. And the more enthusiastic she was to learn, you know, the more time I spent teaching and coaching her. And she ended up actually selling more than I sold when I was in Yellow Pages.
Wow.
But I gave her a lot of my accounts, so she had a head start. And I just saw how her life changed. I saw as, you know, she got into a reliable car, and she got to move. She lived in a terrible neighborhood. She got to move her kids out of that terrible neighborhood into a great neighborhood. And, you know, talking about saving money for their college. And so it just,
that'll shift you.
It really started to have me focus on, you know, I like that. That makes me feel, it made me feel better. And it was a larger challenge to say, I can get these 8 people, or in some cases I had 50 people, to sell more and improve their lives. I could go out and I could sell anything, but now I'm doing it without even going out and selling anything. So it was a really cool challenge, and I felt really accomplished. You know, as I've matured, I've just really start to understand, and I do a lot of stuff at church now. And, God gave me a talent. God gave me a gift of being able to influence people. I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to justify it. I'm not going to apologize for it. For 30 years now, whether I've been individually talking one-on-one to a prospect, or whether I've been talking in front of groups, or I've been running sales teams, or now that I've been, trying to recruit, not recruit, but talk to people about coming to church, I've been successful at it. And I've worked at it and I've learned things, but something, God gave me a gift to be able to talk to people and make sense. And help them to take a step financially, or take a step professionally, or take a step spiritually. So when you talk about my why at this point in my life, it really is understanding that, God has given me the ability to communicate very well. God has given me a platform to do it. God has given me a track record of being able to do it. And now I have to understand who I want to get in front of and what I want to influence. And so that's why I spend, tremendous amount of time, obviously, doing it with individuals and companies, but I've been in the last half of 2019 really spending more time doing it with the church also, just because
that's where you are right now.
That's where I'm at right now. And we're all inspired, and we're all students. Mm-hmm. And in 2019, when I was trying to rebuild from a really, really unhealthy relationship from 2017 to 2018, really turning to God was the only thing that got me through it. And, you talk about my calmness right now. One thing that I've done for years, for 17 years, is the first thing I do every morning when I wake up. I kind of get my wits about me, but the first thing I do is I spend a minimum of 10 minutes just going through gratitudes. And God, I'm grateful for, and I just go right down the list. And it gives you a great perspective through the day, because, if you spill coffee on your pants and you've just talked about, your gratitude for your health, and your gratitude for your family, and your gratitude for your house, and your gratitude for your beautiful children, and your gratitude, and you go down this list, all of a sudden spilling coffee is not that big a deal.
Right.
Somebody,
that's really good. Yeah.
You have a big meeting and they stand you up, well, I don't have cancer, and, I have beautiful kids, and my kids are healthy, and my kids are safe, and I live in a great neighborhood, and I have a loving husband. And you just go down this list, and it's hard not to be calm when you spend enough time in gratitude.
Yeah.
Anytime I have a challenge, whether I don't feel good, if I feel anger, if I feel sadness, I go right back to gratitudes, and I just go down that list again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I feel lonely today. I wished I didn't have to go grocery shopping by myself. Yeah, I get that. But you know what? You have a great house, and you have a refrigerator to put these groceries in, and you
got enough money to buy. You don't
have
to
money
think
to
about
buy
it.
groceries, and you just go down this list, and all of a sudden it's like, okay,
it's not so bad.
Yeah, life's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Last Sunday, we went to church. This is a perfect time to bring it up. But I was thinking about a segment for our podcast, because when it comes to religion and, just religions in general, like I'm not spiritual. But we went to church.
You're not religious.
I'm not religious. I'm not religious at all. But, so Sonia and the kids were going to go to church. And I want to be with my family. And I know that when they go to church, maybe they go out to eat or whatever. And it's like just hours that go by. And I'm just like, I like my alone time, but then I'm just kind of sitting around like, I want to be with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to church with you guys. And we go to church, and, even though I believe what I believe, I think that a lot of times people that are maybe atheists or agnostic, there's a lot of pride, and just because it comes from Jesus or the Bible or whatever, they're like closed off. Like if it comes from that, I don't want to hear anything. But even though I may not believe, I go to church and I start hearing these things. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that it's good. It's good stuff. No matter what. Like one thing they were talking about was this guy that his son had committed suicide. And like it just started making me think about our family, our kids, and it's like just like you're saying, appreciating. Like we have our kids. Like sometimes we take them for granted. Like they're around all the time. We see them and they may be a pain in the ass or whatever. And it's like, but you know what? They're here with us. You know, we have to appreciate what we have. And another thing that it made me think of was like a lot of times you see these like troops that have lost somebody in combat or somebody that has lost their legs. And you hear them interviewed or when they talk to them, it's like they do these amazing, incredible things. And when you ask them like why, like what is it that gives you that drive? And they're like, well, my friends can't do it. Like they're not here. And these are things that like I'm sitting in church listening to what they're talking about. And I'm like, you know what? It's just pride that keeps people from, I mean, because you can learn everywhere, you know?
I think it's also a process for people. And what I would tell people is just start the process. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to believe in God if you don't want to. But I'll tell you this. The Bible doesn't ask you to do or not do anything that's not ultimately good for you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Love your neighbors. Love your parents. Don't murder. Don't lie. Like, really? We can't agree on that principle?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you read the Bible and it's a good manual for what to do and what not to do just to be a good human being, it's a good start. So, you know, on the second part, I think that God takes us through whatever journey we need to be taken through. And I was in a very unhealthy relationship in 2017, 18-ish. And part of us trying to fix the relationship was to go to church. And I grew up Catholic, and I was not super excited about going to the church that I go to. But I went because it was my commitment that I would go to church. Mm-hmm. And so as this went along, I started being like, well, I'm here. I might as well, like, because the first few times I went there, I'm like, yeah, this is not my deal. I'm just going to pray while all this other stuff goes on.
Yeah. And
as it went along, I said, you know what, I'm here. I might as well go pay attention to the music and listen. So I started doing that. And then, you know, since the time that I've made that commitment, which was like June of 2018, I have not been to church one time, and I was in Hawaii. Other than that, I've never missed a week of church because I gave my word that that's what I would do. As I went through and started getting more into it and started learning more and just making the best of the situation, you know, I had a pretty low point in the end of 2018 where I was telling you I made it 8 days on $12. Emotionally, I was crushed that the relationship was over, and started from zero. Had tried to do some things with her business and my business that didn't work out financially, and then just kind of wiped me out savings wise and caused a lot of financial pressure. My business really got put on the back burner, and I lost a lot of my residual income on mine. So when I wasn't with her anymore, didn't have a job, didn't have residual income, had to start from zero, which, you know, I can't do what I do and just make income tomorrow. It takes time to schedule meetings. And so it was a really tough point. And I remember I moved in with a friend, and I was in the bedroom and, you know, didn't have any money and just was crushed. And all I can remember thinking was I never asked God for a job, and I never asked God for a girlfriend. I never asked God for anything, money. All I asked was, God, just take this feeling away. Just I'll live wherever you want me to live. I'll do whatever you want me to do, but just take this feeling away. And, you know, I was doing my gratitudes, and I was just praying, and I was so sad so often that I was just praying constantly. And it was weird because the people that I started meeting were just a higher quality of people. And I got a phone call just out of the blue from a past client. And they said, "Are you done selling insurance now?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I am. You know, I'm done selling insurance." And they said, "Well, come to my office." And they brought me an opportunity that was probably 2/3 of my income last year. And then things started getting better and things started getting better. And so what I'd tell people is, look, you can believe or not believe, but what I will tell you is, when I was at the lowest, when I needed it the most, I prayed. And every time I prayed, my life got better. So you can pray or you can not pray, or you can read the Bible or you can not read the Bible. What I would tell you is, I have experience in surrendering that there is something more powerful than me, and praying and trying to do the right things and trying to follow the word and having great things happen. And so that's my experience. I can't tell you that that's going to happen to you. I can't tell you anybody else. All I can tell you is those two principles for me is, you're talking about a book that asks you to do things that you should or shouldn't be doing anyway. And I have personal experience in diving into prayer and having it affect my life in a positive way. So because of those two things, I can't do anything other than that now.
Yeah.
Right.
And part of that is, trying to help other people, trying to be a positive influence on other people's lives, personally, professionally, and spiritually.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, like 100%. Like, I run to prayer, and I've had many divine appointments, which, came pretty recently, but I've been on the spiritual journey for a long time, and God is my best friend, and he drives me. He drives me.
And for some people that might be meditation, or, that's just a different form, for different people it's different. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you was, when you were growing up, like, you got into sales, but do you remember, like, working as a kid?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when was the first time that you started working? And, pretty much.
Well, I would always hang around with, like, my grandpa when he was doing concrete jobs, and he'd give me a couple bucks here and there, help set forms or, dig or whatever. And
how old were you when you did that?
Oh, I was probably 10, 12 years old. Who knows? And then when my mom was working at the catering company, there were times where I would go to the catering kitchen before they went out, and I would like cut rolls in half that they made the little sandwiches on, and she'd give me $10 or something. But I've always had some hustle.
Yeah.
Honestly, there was a time where I had a friend who was a huge thief.
Not like Robin Hood.
No. So he would steal stereos and wheels off cars and bikes. And so through probably 8th and maybe 7th, 8th, 9th grade, he would steal bikes, and I would buy the bikes from him. And then I would take them all apart. And so they were busing me to, I lived in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, and they were busing me at that time to, starting 7th grade, they had started busing us to a school that was mostly white. And, there were middle-class families, upper middle-class families. And so I started taking orders for bikes. And so I'd go to school and
he's taking orders for
Johnny would be like, I'd be like, well, what kind of bikes do you want? And he's like, well, I'd like a chrome mongoose, and I want blue wheels, and I want blue.
I remember those, the chrome mongoose. Yeah.
And I want blue wheels, and I want blue handlebars, and I want, this and this. And I'd be like, all right, give me like a couple weeks, and it'll be $100. And they're like, okay. And so, and there was a flea market right by my house too.
You had the chop shop.
I know, right?
I had a chop shop for bikes, and so I would tell Mark, I'd be like, hey, I need a chrome mongoose, and he would go get a chrome mongoose, and I'd give him 50.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, what's your split?
So I'd give him 50 for the bike, but what ended up happening was, because he was stealing the bikes, and I would just have them in my garage, I started having just lots of extra parts and lots of extra frames. And so it got to the point where, I could make 2 or 3 bikes a lot of times because I already had the parts. And,
So
bless
funny.
my mom's heart. She thought I never did anything wrong. Like,
Oh, man.
and so she'd be, where you get it? I was like, it's a flea market, Mom. I buy them for like $10. And she's like, okay.
Good color.
Where'd you get the money to buy all those bikes? It's flea market stuff, Mom. You know you don't pay anything at the flea market.
Oh man.
So we're gonna like go in circles here. Not in circles, but I wanted to talk about it sounds like you've been through some challenging relationships, and some that. So okay. Anyways, let me get my thoughts together. So regarding that, there's always a lesson to be learned, right? There's always a lesson to be learned. I mean, the way we become great is by going through the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't learn from the challenge, you continue to go through it, right? It's like a never-ending circle pit of hell, right? So what is some advice that you can give to some single men out there, or some that may be going through a rough time in relationships or a marriage? Do you have any advice for them, just from your situation and what you've learned?
I will tell you that I think most of us go into relationships looking for chemistry and hoping for compatibility. And it should be the exact opposite. We should see if people are compatible and then try and figure out if there's chemistry. I think if you asked 100 people, what do you want?
Yeah.
99 can't describe what they want in a relationship. Oh, I want, faithfulness and loyalty. Stop. Like, what do you want? What does a day look like? What does a week look like? How do you handle fights? How do you handle somebody losing their job? How do you handle, blended families now, right? It's almost impossible to be older and not have to at least address what happens with a blended family. What happens with the ex who's going to cause problems? I mean, is that fun to talk about at happy hour?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like you were saying, like if you're somebody that's an entrepreneur that has that entrepreneur spirit, but you're married to somebody who's very structured, that's tough.
Sure.
Because if there's somebody that like they see, well, we need a job with benefits, and the entrepreneur spirit is like the complete opposite of that. Like, I mean, I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to, and it's not going to come with benefits at first. And there may not be a lot of money at first, but we're going to go, and that might just drive the other person insane.
Absolutely. So, but think about this. If I said, what do you want in a vacation? Everybody could tell you exactly what they want. Mm-hmm. I want this, and I want this, and I want this. I want to stay at this hotel. I want to be on this beach. I want to do this. I want to Paris, right? What do you want in a job? I want 40 hours. I want benefits and 401k.
So true.
I want a desk, and I want a window, and I want, right? What do you want? What do you want in a car? I want a Ferrari and
right.
And 100 bullet points. What do you want in a relationship?
That's so true. Like they have to really think about it.
Faithfulness and loyalty.
Yeah.
Faithfulness and loyalty. Well, you know what? Faithfulness and loyalty that's not even on the table. Like if we don't have a foundation of that, like why do we have to talk about that?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think why it's so difficult for people is because in order to love someone else, in order to be happy with someone else, you have to know you. You have to know what brings joy to you. You need to love you first before you can love anybody else.
Sure.
And I talk about having the self-awareness, like the onion being the self-awareness, having to pull back the layers to really find out who you are and what you stand for. And I feel that once you're there, once you know who you are and what you stand for, then finding that other individual or significant, you're going to be way clearer, and you're not going to pour so much on that other person for happiness or, confidence or, any of that, because you know who you are. Now, sure. You're not finding, it's not looking for someone that's going to complete you, because you're already complete.
Yes.
Do you see what I'm saying? Once you get to that point. Right.
I also think it becomes very scary for people, because if I tell you exactly what I want, what if it's not out there? If I said, I want a professional woman between this age and this age, whose kids are between this age and this age.
Kids, even part of the kids' age.
But realistically, at 51 years old, would I want to meet a woman that had a 6-month-old set of twins?
Right.
Is that what I want the rest of my life to look like?
Yeah.
And that's scary because everybody's going to go, oh, you're being super judgy. What if she's a great person? Well, she's a great person that should be with somebody who wants kids.
Right. No, you're right. Because
there's somebody out there.
I used to have a checklist.
But it's scary because the more we're specific about what we want, the scarier it is that we might not be able to find it.
So true.
And so I think as long as we don't define it, everybody's got potential.
Everybody's got potential.
Right? And then we get in the middle of these relationships and there's a little bit of chemistry and there's physical connection.
Yes. And
now all of a sudden we're 6 months in and we're starting to figure out, wow, she really hates that I'm impulsive. But I like her, and like we've connected physically. And,
that's tough.
It seems so weird, and and then little by little, this compromise, and then the resentment, and so I get it. But that's that to me is what I would tell people is and it's scary, and I'm a work in process, but like you have to know what you want,
right?
Or else you just get too far in before you realize, like, shoot, I got 18 years in one time. Before you realize that, wow, you're a great person, but like, I'm not your guy. I mean, I'm never going to do my finances on a spreadsheet. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, at least on the very important stuff, the big things, you got to figure that stuff out, because if that doesn't match up, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And you have to be open as well. Like I said, I used to have a checklist, like credit, check, like they have to have good credit.
But
no kids, check.
I think we were fortunate, kind of like what you're saying. We were fortunate that on the big things, the important things, like there's been compromise on certain things here and there. But the major things,
we're pretty similar.
You're right there.
We're on the same page.
So, because I mean, it's a joke, but it's not a joke. Like I would die if I had to do a budget. Like I really, I would feel like I was suffocating. Like my budget is like, I'll log on and I'll be like, I can go out to eat tonight.
But you pay yourself first. I mean, we're talking about this, like, right? Like you have investments. First. So because this David Bach I've been listening to, it's really, really awesome. He talks about a budget does not work. Like you're saying, like a budget, I would die being on a budget. So what he tells us is to pay yourself first. Like what you want to do is take, depending on where you're at, take 20% of what you make and put it in investment or put it aside, pay yourself first. And if you always do that, then this is what you don't have to really make a budget, because this is the amount that you're going to live on.
No, I don't even do that.
What? What the heck? He's like, I just live.
I will literally make every decision today based on logging into my bank account and seeing what I have. And then I'll be like, oh, what's today? What is today? Like the 16th or something? So I have a car
18th. It's the 18th because I did a signing yesterday.
He's like, oh shit, I missed my car payment.
No, I have a car payment due on the 20th. So I'll take that money out and then I'll see what's left and I'll be like, wow, this is a good week. Maybe I'll go out to eat twice. And if I don't have that much, then I go like buy a bunch of groceries, because I'll be like, okay, this is like, enough groceries to get me by till this next money comes in. And so that's, I need to do better at it, but I mean, that's the way I'm wired.
And though, like you said, I need to, do better at it. Most people just won't even go that route. They're just like, yeah, whatever. Like there's some things I'm working on. There's some things I know that I need to do, but hey, I'm just having fun right now. No.
Yeah, but I mean, could you imagine being my girlfriend and you're like, hey, we should do something tonight. And I get my phone and I'm like, Netflix.
Yeah. Let's go get a pizza at Fry's and we'll watch Netflix tonight.
Yeah. God, what'd be so fun if we just cuddled on the couch and watched TV and had a us night.
And
when you put it that, this guy, he is a master at sales.
He is, isn't he?
I'll log on and I'll be like,
oh, that is so funny.
I'll light a candle.
We should go to P.F. Chang's.
Yeah.
Get my group on.
Oh,
yeah.
So are you a introvert or an extrovert?
I think I have times of both.
Yeah, because I'm confused. Like I'm watching you and your body, like your demeanor, I'm like, he's all introvert.
No,
but then I've seen you.
No, like what day is this? What's today? Saturday?
Saturday, yeah.
Oh, Thursday night I did like 6 karaoke songs and
what?
I was like walking around to tables and
Yeah.
Really? But is that because there's alcohol in your system, or would you
Who said
do
I was
that?
drinking?
I just assume because I know
She's
you a
always
little
hammered.
bit. Shut up. That's
Just
not
kidding.
true. I know what you got in that.
She did offer Bailey's for your coffee.
No, I mean, I have my moments where I'm an introvert, and I have moments where I'm an extrovert. I mean, I don't
Like
think
my
anybody's
husband.
all one way or the other all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I think there's situations that bring out more of it, but usually, I enjoy my alone time. I read a ton, and I love that. And
I like my alone time too. And you told me, I'm like, I wonder if you're turning into an introvert, because there's times where
you have been.
I need but it's because I'm so out there. Like, I put a lot of energy out, and there's times where I'm drained, where I need to refuel.
And I think that's a lot of it, especially being in sales. You always have to be up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your body language has to be right, and your tone has to be right, and your pace has to be right. And when you do that for 6 or 8 hours, sometimes you just come down and you're like, I'm okay not being around people.
Yeah. One thing, we're almost, it's been an hour.
That's so crazy.
But anyway, before we get out of here, there's one thing I wanted to mention. Like, for some people, they just feel like, I don't like sales. Like, I've done it, and they're like, you know what? Sales is not for me. Like, that is, and like you were just talking about, like, your attitude has to be right. And that is one thing, like, when you go out, like, if you have somebody that you have a shitty conversation with, and now you're supposed to go out and talk and meet people and try to sell something, you try to put on the best version of you when you're trying to sell, but that kind of is lingering. It's kind of like a little gray cloud hanging over you. But I think a lot of people don't realize that everybody's in sales. Everybody. Whether you have a corporate job, it doesn't matter whether you're single. It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Especially in sales. When you're single.
Yeah, right. But no, like, if you have a corporate job and you're trying to move up to another position, you're trying to do something, like, you have to interview.
Yep.
That is sales.
Did you ever try to get your kids to do their homework?
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of people don't realize that we're all in sales in one way or another.
Yes. Would you agree?
Sales is just about influence. Okay, so if you've ever been in a position to want or need to influence somebody at a job, right? Hey, they just posted this. I have to who's not interviewed for a job? What do you think that is?
Yeah.
Right? When you talk to someone at the coffee shop, or if you do online dating and you start a conversation, you're trying to influence them, trust me.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of it is just perspective. And I've been doing it so long, and I've heard no in so many tens of thousands of times that we just have to understand that, in life and in sales, most of the time what we want to happen doesn't.
Yeah.
And if you start with that as a baseline, if I start my day off knowing that if I talk to 20 people today, 40 people, 60 people, most of them aren't going to want to do it. I mean, not the right time, not the right whatever. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I know going in, but I think, a lot of times in sales, we go in and it's like we're crushed when 10 out of 10 people don't buy from us. And it's like, and we're like, oh, I hate the rejection. Well,
It's part of the process.
why don't you love the sales more than you hate hate the objection?
Yeah.
So,
and maybe they haven't figured out their ratio.
And that's why I'm very analytical with all that stuff. I know all of my numbers and I focus on them, and then it just becomes about, okay, I know that if I talk to 100 people a week, that 20 will have a conversation and 4 will close.
Yeah.
So some weeks it's 105 and some weeks it's 80. It doesn't matter. I just know that when I do the right ratio every single week, that the right things happen.
That reminds me of that of Jim Rohn, where he talks about like, once you figure out your ratio, you can compete with anybody. Because if you talk to 100 people and sell 99, and I talk to 100 people and sell 1, I can beat you.
Yeah.
Because if you only talk to 100 people and I talk to 1,000, I win.
Exactly true.
And I think it was this Zig Ziglar book, when I can't remember which one, but I think it was him, that they were talking about sales and how even if you hate sales, I mean, sales makes the world go round. I mean, if you're in a company, like my company, for example, we build helicopters. we have salespeople that go around to, different governments, and they try to sell helicopters. And if they don't sell helicopters, guess who else isn't working? Everybody else that works at our plant, the other 5,000 people that we work with. Right. So
and the shipping company,
and yeah, exactly, the shipping company, the
metal company,
the order forms, the papers, like all that stuff. So.
And I love what you said, and you hear it over and over again, that if you know how, like once you said that you've been through 3 situations where you lost everything, but then you built it, lost everything, built it, lost everything, built it. It's like once you know what it takes,
you can
just rebuild it. Yes. So those of you that are out there going through some things, and maybe you started up a business, and you've been doing it for quite some time, and something happens and you lose it all, know that you have what it takes to move forward and to build that up again. And I think with relationships, it's the same thing. You fail at one, learn, right? Look in the mirror, learn. Don't give up though. Don't give up. Because if I would have gave up, I wouldn't have met this amazing man next to me. Oh. You were supposed to do that.
I need a sound effect. There you go.
So let's talk about your book. I mean, the time's up, but we got to map to sales, man. I mean, where can people find it?
Amazon. It's on Amazon, yep. I think I lowered the price too, so it's only like $3.99, and nice. I think that you can get the ebook too, but I'm not into ebooks. I like real books. Okay. I have thousands of books. I just think they're neat to collect. But yeah.
So if you want to get mapped to sales, you can buy it on Amazon. And if you're going to buy it on Amazon, you can go to oppositesattractpod.com and click the support the show link and click on the Amazon link. And it doesn't cost you any extra. Yeah. And it just kind of comes out of Amazon's cut, and it helps out the show.
Awesome.
So yeah, you can,
great idea.
You can do that. You can also subscribe to the podcast on oppositesattractpod.com. And you can also find Trust Inc. on there.
Right. And Trust Inc., we are a nationwide mobile notary agency. We do a lot of work for title companies, law firms, and individuals as well. So if you would like to get some information on that, you can go to the website. We are also independent associates with Legal Shield. And what Legal Shield does is gives you access to attorneys at the palm of your hand for a small monthly subscription.
Amazing company, by the way.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, how can they do that? Social media, YouTube?
Social media, MJ Cordova. Yeah, I mean,
that's everywhere. Facebook, Instagram.
Well, Instagram's mapped to sales, but yeah.
Okay.
If you put in MJ Cordova, and it still comes up. YouTube, you can find me on YouTube. You can call me. You can text me. You can message me on Facebook.
The single ladies.
If you just Google MJ Cordova, you pop up. You're the first one that pops up. So
yes, no, but I'm serious. Like if I'm talk to anybody, I like talking to people. But yeah, I mean, what's my phone number? 480-436-1820. Text me, call me, find me on Facebook.
These women are going to be hitting you up.
Come on. I meant for constructive things.
Constructive things.
It could be.
I'm not I'm just another pretty face.
It's not just a piece of meat, ladies.
Yeah.
Right,
I need conversation.
Aww. Babe. Aww. Come on now. I'm going to take over.
Anyway, you know what? Thank you for being with us.
It was my pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you guys for listening.
Love you guys.
We'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.